What's up? What's going on, Tom? How you doing, man? You just muted yourself.
Um, yeah, I did that.
That's all right.
Yeah, everything's going pretty good.
Yeah? What you
Just
been
been a
up
little
to?
busy. That's pretty much it. I did kind of start the fish room. I just gotta. I'm taking my time with it. I'm not rushing into it. So,
Yeah. What's your plan for the fish room?
well, I already got the rack set up. Next thing is just to get, all that other stuff, the air pump I want to get, the lights.
Okay.
Just
What are you
one
looking?
rack for now.
Okay. How many tanks are you putting on it? Ooh,
It
air
fits two
pump.
40s on the bottom. I want to keep that for the corridors, and
Okay.
then I haven't decided how I'm going to do the second shelf because I can't really do a third shelf because of my uh, ceiling is like 6 foot, so I can only really go two shelves high.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
But
It's not too bad though. Should be okay.
no, yeah, it'll work.
Cool. What are you looking at for an air pump?
I was thinking about getting that one off Amazon. I think it
Okay.
was a linear.
Okay. I'm gonna do this, and we'll just see what happens. I don't know. See if I can figure out what I'm doing. Anyway, all right. So I guess anyway, there's a bunch of other people here. So I suppose we'll say what's up. There's not a whole lot, maybe 10 of us or so hanging out. Tom's here. Hey, what's up, Tom? S. Patty, always nice to see you, Patty. Rico Stan says, Officer Fish, what's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well. It's been a while, Rico. This is the first time I've been streaming. I've popped into a couple other streams here and there just to say hi. But this is the first time that I've actually been on my own stream in probably 2 months. And pardon, sounding all stuffy and full of nonsense, but there's like spring allergy season in Iowa, and there is fall allergy season, and fall allergy season is kicking me in the nads, man. It is just wreaking havoc on the old nugget. Bobby's
Yeah,
here.
it's kind of like that here right now. I don't know if it's because of all the heat that we had or what,
Hmm.
but
It's brutal.
it's been beating me up too.
Yep. Dragon layers in the house. What's up? S said howdy howdy. Patty, obviously again. Oh, not a whole lot going on in the chat. Pretty quiet so far. John McKenzie. What's up, John? Hope you're doing well tonight, bud. Mystery Snail Guardians, who I am not personally familiar with, but welcome. If this is your first time joining the Aquatic Exchange, I appreciate you giving us a chance and hanging out and talking. Usually we get into some pretty cool stuff, depending on what you're into, obviously. It could be a little nerdy, or it could be something that you hopefully you learn from. Fish Guy Nick says, "Cute stream room. I appreciate it. This is actually my wife's little den area out off the kitchen. So this is where we're hanging out tonight. Uh, Way from the fish tank, which, if some of you guys saw, the 125 actually got torn down ish, torn apart. Posted some pictures of that mess, and it's cleared up now. So maybe you guys will get a peek at that here in a minute. Bob Kaler's here. Howdy, Bob. For those of you that are regulars on Bob's Sunday stream, 2, 3 weeks ago, I actually jumped up on Bob's stream and we kind of poked and prodded about plants a little bit. So hopefully that kind of sparked your guys' interest and maybe you learned something. Maybe it didn't. Hopefully it kind of inspired you to maybe mess around with plants a little bit more. Patty, Patty's upset. She says she's got nothing on this exchange. Well, Patty, uh, you get out of it what you put into it. Alishan's here. What's up? Always a pleasure. You want to talk some smart guys? Alishan and Patrick both. So it's Alishan and Dragon Lair. Um, that they got some cool stuff. And Alishan, I think you'll appreciate this. So I ordered some new fish today, and I bet they're from somebody that you know, but I'm not sure I want to show them off just yet. So Alishan, maybe I'll email you and show you. I don't know. We'll see. They're pretty cool. It's a super unusual fish. This is the first time I have seen this fish offered in the United States. Um, so pretty sweet. They weren't cheap. I ended up with a group of 8 for about 150 bucks. So not terrible.
No, ain't bad.
Uh, Not bad at all. But they're super cool, and it's kind of out of my wheelhouse. So I usually, as far as cichlids go, I usually tend to lean towards South American stuff. You guys know that. But these guys are Africans, and they're very uncommon.
Hmm.
They are so the fish that I'm getting are F2s from wild caught fish that Oliver Lucanus brought over. And Alishan asked for a hint. I will say that they are from Lake Mweru, Mweru. Lake Mweru. That's your hint, Alishan, and you're pretty smart, so you should at least be able to get the genus based off that, because there's not a whole lot of fish out there. And I did get them on. It's from a breeder that I know, but I did end up getting them through Aquabid. So Alishan may have some pretty good guesses. You're welcome to guess. I don't know if I'll tell you or not. Dragon Lair, they are not Soda Lake cichlids. I have kept Alcalapia alcalicus, which is a pretty cool fish. If you're not familiar with it, it's an African. So the Soda Lake cichlid lives in water that's like 94 degrees, super hard, pretty crazy. But these are not Soda Lake cichlids. I've had Alcalapia alcalicus before. Um, and I'd like to get a different strain like the Indalani, which is pretty cool. The Indalani shows a little more color, but these are not Soda Lake cichlids. Good guess, though, Patrick. Good guess. Blue Phantom Glico is looking for 4. If you see somebody you trust selling them, Blue Phantoms. I've got a buddy down in Omaha that gets them in his shop on occasion. I've never seen him get 4 at a time, though. 4 is a pretty good group of those
Hmm.
fish, and you're probably going to pay a couple bucks, if I had to guess. pH 9, Turtle Lake. That's yep. So it was. They're not super difficult fish, but they do come from very odd parameters, for sure, Patrick. Super odd. And Rico saying Rep Snail Nerd had some few months back that the Snail Queen got. Must have missed what was going on there. Monster Fish Gal, Lori, what is up? Hope you're doing well, Lori. Glad to have you around. Haven't seen you in a little while. But I did see, where did I see Lori the other day? The Florida Fish Rescue stream, maybe? That 24-hour marathon they were trying to do to raise a couple
Oh
bucks.
my, yeah, she
I think I saw her over there.
oh, she was there for I think the whole thing. I think she stuck with the whole thing.
That's dedication. Dedication if I've ever seen it. But speaking of water parameters, right? So we started talking about pH a little bit and temperatures. So let's talk a little bit about water testing. And before I go off on a rant or discussion or whatever you may refer to it as, I know my habit patterns or lack of. Tom, what are your habits or thoughts on water parameters? What do you test? What do you care about? What do you not care about? What test kits do you use? Kind of stuff like that.
The only test kit I use is the strips. The Tetra strips that have
Okay.
the 6 on it. I think it's 6.
Okay.
But to be quite honest with you, I don't chase them.
hmm
I just know in my head by just looking at the tank if it needs a water change or not.
hmm
Uh, but sometimes I'll test it just to see out of curiosity how it's doing. Like if I think it needs a water change, I might just test it to see if if I'm right or not. And normally,
Okay.
whenever I think it needs it and I do it, it's spot on. But
Right.
the only time that I really check the water change thing is when I'm starting a tank.
Hmm.
I'll keep an eye on it then.
Okay.
And I normally use the Fritz, starter, the bacteria. Actually, I have a
Okay.
bottle of it here. That stuff.
Hmm.
And even though I use that, I still watch it because it still could happen.
Alshan's probably gonna figure out by the end of the night, but we'll get there. So yeah, so some people use the paper test strips, um, and so yeah, I don't even. I'll have to look. So the Tetra strips, I don't. I honestly couldn't tell you exactly what all they test. I'd imagine it's probably ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, pH. Let's take a look. I'll take a look. Do. Chlorine, alkalinity, nitrite, hardness, nitrate, and pH. So yeah, I'd say those are, depending on the reliability of it, doesn't doesn't test ammonia, like Bob said.
No,
Uh,
I actually bought a separate. Actually, I got a package deal off of Amazon a while back. I was able to get both of them for a pretty
mhm.
good price.
Okay. So a couple people, John Oliver's here. For what it's worth, John Oliver over at John Oliver's Guppies and Aquatics. He does have a Facebook page of the same name. He also has a band group where he offers up some of his stuff. And then he's actually been posting a lot of stuff on YouTube lately. So if you don't follow John Oliver, um, good dude to follow. But he posts some cool stuff. He's pretty open and transparent about his operations. He does a lot of like unboxings and releases into tanks and stuff. So kind of cool to see that side of the operation. But I digress. So like I said, Tony Danford and Fishimon mentioned that they use the aquarium co-op test strips.
Hmm.
I haven't used them yet myself. I'd imagine they probably have, honestly, fairly similar accuracy to like the test Tetra strips. They probably test the same thing if I had to guess. And who knows, they may or may not. I don't know for sure. They may or may not come out of the same factory. A lot of stuff in the hobby does. Um,
Yeah, I
I mean,
haven't really. I watched a video once on what he had, and then I totally forgot. I think.
so it looks like nitrate, nitrite, hardness, KH, pH, chlorine. So odds are, and I don't know for sure. Odds are it's probably the same. It coming out of the same company. And that's a guess. That's just, I mean, if you look at like your power tools, half of them come
Hmm.
out of the same plant. The manufacturer tells them what motor they want to put in what housing, what color to make it, and boom, honestly, out of the same place. And that happens with a lot of stuff. It's just, unfortunately, it's the facts of life. So I'd imagine they probably have the same accuracy. Um, and I personally don't use the paper test strips. I kind of find them a little bit inaccurate. Generally speaking, it's easy to dip it and at least kind of get close. Like I'd imagine you're either gonna have zero ammonia or it's gonna show you like 5, 10 ammonia if you're using a strip that tests ammonia or nitrate. Nitrate should be easy to pick up, fairly easy. Um, so I don't personally use the paper strips. I know a lot of people out there suggest, and it's because it's cheap and you get a bunch of things in one. But the API master test kit, which the
Yeah.
API master test kit for excuse me, $20, you get all kinds of tests. You get low range pH, high range pH, which are both useless if you ask me. Ammonia, nitrite, and the infamous API nitrate test kit, which might be the most uh, inaccurate test kit on the face of the planet, if you ask me. Uh, Sometimes, if you shake it 100 times, you get a bad result. And if you shake it 101 times, all of a sudden it's magic and you get a good answer out of it. So I don't personally suggest the API kit. It's cheap and it gets people, For ammonia and nitrite, it kind of gets you close. Like I said, pH, and I'll get into this a little bit more. I think the pH test is useless, and the nitrate causes probably more problems and questions for people than it does answers. So let's talk about that a little bit as far as testing our water. So whenever new people get in the hobby, right, and whenever new people get in the hobby, uh, they always get told, test your water, test your water, test your water,
Mhm.
which you know test your water, great. If you're new to the hobby, if you get a quality test kit, it helps you follow the cycle so that you understand the nitrogen cycle a little bit better, and you can actually see that happen. And as far as using a test kit and being new to the hobby, I think that doing a cycle and following the cycle with your test kit is extremely important. While there are quality products out there like the Fritz 7 or the Fritz Turbo Start 700, that help you kickstart a cycle quick and potentially even bypass seeing the actual cycle. For your first tank, I think it's extremely important that you actually uh, so that you actually see and get a little more understanding of the nitrogen cycle and just what's happening in your tank that you actually care about, right? Too often, unfortunately, I see people like, well, I'm new to the hobby, right? And somebody tells them to get the API master test kit, which is fine. So they go out, they get the test kit, and they follow the directions, put the water in there, put the reagents in there, and they're like, okay, I have these colors, I have numbers, right? I have colors. These colors mean something, and but what are they? So people go out, they listen, which is good. They take the initiative, they go get the test kit, but they don't take the initiative and accountability and responsibility to learn about exactly what they're testing. So it's great that you want to test your water because somebody told you to, but learn about why you should test your water and what exactly you're testing. Um, so I do think it's important to know what the test results mean. You should be able to, as a new hobbyist, you may not necessarily know the answer to your question. If you're like, okay, I'm 4 weeks into a cycle, ammonia 0, nitrites 2. I know this is roughly what I should see, but is my cycle stalled? Whatever. You should be able to know at least what's happening in the tank, like what the ammonia reading is, right? What exactly is that, or the nitrite reading itself, and understand that process. So I think it's important for us as hobbyists to not only advise people buy the test kits and post their test results to get help, but it's important to, I think we should stress people taking uh, and being accountable and holding people accountable for doing the appropriate research so that they understand exactly what they're testing. Because if you're just testing to get numbers, obviously somebody else can help you with those numbers, and that's okay, right? But you should also be able to help yourself. You should be able to understand those numbers. There's people that have been in the hobby, they've been testing their water for 2 years, and all they ever know is to post their numbers on the internet because they can't actually interpret those test results themselves. Um, so buy quality test kits. buy quality test kits so you set yourself up for success and learn how to use them properly. Like I said, if you use that silly API nitrate test kit, which if you're looking for a new test kit, look at Sarah or Nutrifin. Those are kind of my go-tos if you're going to go that route. Um, but make sure that you do the reading to understand exactly what you're testing and why.
Them that API kit reminds me of testing pool water.
And so a lot of people are on the API, the master kit train, which has
Yeah.
it has high pH and low pH, which the break is at like 7.0 or something. So if you ask me, the single most, and this came from old school thinking when it actually made a little bit of a difference because we kept more wild caught fish.
Hmm.
Um, but the most overrated and useless water parameter to 99% of hobbyists is pH. Absolutely useless. It doesn't, for most people, it doesn't mean anything. And this isn't, it's not the 50s where all our discus and our tetras are wild caught coming from super soft water, um, and then not going through a huge process to get to your house, right? So a lot of our fish are tank raised or farm raised, so they're not coming from their natural habitat anyway. So you look at like any given tetra, natural habitat may have pH like 6.2 and 100 microsimians, uh, hardness, whatever, blah blah blah. Um, but most of the fish we keep don't come. They're not wild caught anymore. They don't come from those natural environments. So those parameters you see on like Seriously Fish or some of those more reliable websites are those are wild parameters that they're used to. The fish you're getting have either been farm raised, uh, or they've gone through. If they were wild caught. So let's say they're wild caught in Brazil. Okay, so somebody pulls them out of a river in Brazil. Then they go into somebody's holding tanks there, right? So they change water conditions one time, right? And then from Brazil, the exporter ships them to somebody else. So somebody imports them, like a distributor. And I'm not going to throw any distributors under the bus. So there's some big ones out there. So they get them from Brazil. Distributor keeps them in their water. So it's another water change, and it's most likely there's certain distributor. There's one in the Midwest that comes to mind. So it goes from the Brazil, maybe it exports from Brazil to either Florida or to straight to the Midwest. And Midwest is notorious for hard water. So then they see that a certain pH or hardness there, and then most likely an intermediary somewhere, um, and then it finally hits your tank after maybe a local shop. So just because the wild parameters are super soft and a low pH doesn't mean crap as far as when it hits your tank. And for the most part, everybody's up in arms about trying to change pH, and they're testing pH all the time. And it's you're chasing a problem that doesn't exist, and you're making a problem for yourself.
See, I noticed like with chasing pH, you can cause other problems too. So
And
if
that's
you're going to be chasing the pH for like breeding Pacific fish, you're going to want to put that as a species only tank,
mhm,
because if you got other fish in there, it can affect them too.
yep. And a lot of people, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but a lot of people, like we're looking at, myself, Patrick, Alishan, these guys are like, I haven't tested in 40 years. Um, and honestly, like once you get into, and like you said yourself there, Tom, I know you haven't been in the hobby super long, but after a while, you can recognize things in tanks, and you can tell when something's wrong. Like you don't need to do a test. You don't test your water every week and then just wait till the test kit says that you should
Mhm.
do a water change. And a lot of the reason for not having to test is regular water changes. Like myself, I do, generally speaking, 50% or better. So I know there's, if that tank turns into a mess in a week, then I'm being lazy, or that tank's not set up properly, right? Um,
Yeah.
so so you can save yourself a lot of work, and a lot of stress, by taking the time to once do that research, do the learning to understand how the nitrogen cycle works, etc. And if that involves, initially doing the testing to actually see it in your tanks, great. But over time, as you gain a better understanding of how that cycle works and exactly what's happening in your tank, the necessity for testing really kind of goes away. You'll be able to visually see that something's off, um, or you'll realize that, you know what, a lot of the parameters that people test for really don't matter much, to be honest. Um, and that's like Bob said, he tests if he can tell something's going on, that he can't quite figure out. So, and this is kind of one of the reasons. So automatic water changes, and then this is related, unrelated. Automatic water setups, they can be great, right?
Yeah.
'Cause it takes a lot of work out of it, but at the same time, it also takes your eyeballs. off the tank and your hands aren't in the tank, so you don't see those subtle changes that would clue you in to something that you can usually see, right? Okay.
Yep.
So there's a lot of test kits out there. I just don't get caught up and testing all the time. I'm not saying don't test your water. Test your water to the point that you understand your water, right? So I really the only thing I test anymore um, is I have a cheap little TDS meter, and I use that more or less to move fish from one tank to the next, and that has more to do with osmotic shock and trying to breed species than anything else. Um, so that's that. That's kind of my take on people getting caught up in water testing, and I've seen. I'm just skimming some of this in here. Somebody's mentioned smell test and probe. I don't know what you're probing, fish tropic, but you should be able to. People, your tank shouldn't smell fishy. Like it shouldn't really have a smell to it. My tanks don't. But so that's that. Chemicals or bacteria, substrate rings, and that's a lot of how you can avoid testing once you understand the cycle. So I think it's important for people to actually watch the cycle occur in their tank, so test it through that. But once you have a grasp of that and you have a tank set up, once you have one tank set up, there's really no reason for you to ever have to cycle a tank again. But like Alishan said, move some substrate or some media to the new tank, and boom, you're done. That's it.
Yeah, I do sponge filter most definitely. The only reason why I really add the Fritz is just that I I see it as an extra boost
Mm.
to help replace something that might have left whenever I moved that filter or whatever.
Patrick said he spent $50 on a pH meter and he has to calibrate it all the time.
Uh,
Um, and that's one of the things as we move away from liquid reagents and into digital tests, whether it's a probe or a meter, that's one thing you have to consider.
mhm.
You do have to calibrate them. Uh, you may use that pH meter once a month or once every 2 months, but eventually, even a nice meter, excuse me, is going to drift. And if you're not calibrating it, you're like, oh, yep, well, now you think you have a problem or you think you're chasing something else. That's not a problem because you just didn't maintain the equipment, and calibrating is part of that maintenance. So we got all kinds of people in here. I saw Anthony pop in. What's up? Jeffrey Watts. Dee Dee's here. Zen Ginger. Maria Z was here earlier. Maria, I hope you're still here. I didn't mean to miss you. I was just Ask Patty. I get off on tangents and rants, and I wasn't trying to ignore anybody. 3G. Tony Danford. I was talking about one of your comments. That one right there, actually. Fishymon. So thanks for stopping by, guys. I appreciate it. I know it's been a while. Um,
Oh yeah.
and I'm glad that we're here. If anybody, excuse me, damn, if anybody wants to jump up and talk, we can talk about fish, plants, water testing. I've seen a lot of threads lately mostly on Facebook, but some other medias or platforms, I guess. And testing it just seemed like a hot topic to me that kind of stood out a little bit. So just something I wanted to touch on, give my opinion about. Maybe you think I'm right, maybe you think I'm wrong. Let me know. But like I said, the more experience you get, not necessarily, experience can be time, right? Like you could have 30 years worth of experience, but experience over time isn't necessarily the same as experience through actually learning and gaining understanding, right? Because
Yeah.
there's people all the time. They're like, well, I've been doing this for 40 or 50 years. Like, but you've just been stagnant for 40 or 50 years. You've been doing the same thing. You haven't been trying to improve yourself. Um, you're really just being lazy, to be honest. And just because you do something for 40 years and you think it works for you, um, doesn't mean that is exactly quality experience. I mean, you've been doing the same crap, right? So always try to improve yourself, whether it's reading an article a day or you know, I know a lot of the fish streams, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of the fish streams have become a lot more of a social thing, and that's great. Get out, meet people, meet fellow hobbyists. Um, but at the same time, there are some streams out there and some videos or video producers that do throw out a lot of useful content. So if you have, if you're running on the treadmill for 10, 15 minutes a day, take that time and you're obviously into fish, otherwise you wouldn't be here, because you're not here for my face, I promise. take Damn it. Take that time and listen to find somebody that you respect and that's well respected in the hobby, and just give them a listen, whether it's a Q&A session like you know you guys know I like Dan. I'm good friends with Dan over at dansfish.com. But a lot of his stuff isn't necessarily creating content where he focuses on a certain topic, but usually he does more of like a Fields Q&A thing.
Hmm.
So if you just listen to 15, 20 minutes of that, like listen to the questions, answers, uh, and just always seek to improve yourself. So
Especially with him, he's full of information. Then if he
and
doesn't know it, he ain't scared to tell you no, and
right,
he'll try to send you in the right
yep.
direction.
And I'm not saying Dan's the only one, but find somebody. There's a lot of unfortunately there's a lot of people on YouTube that have a large presence and a large following, but don't offer a lot of quality information. So just make sure that you're doing a little QC, a little, not to use the buzzword, but fact checking yourself, and don't just
Hmm.
trust everything that you hear. Just like you guys don't trust me for crap, but I appreciate you listening to me yammer. Uh, Lori says, "Hit the thumbs up." I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys all having taking the time out of your night, and it's always nice to see you folks. I know it's been a while. He said pH is nonsense. 236 supposed low pH softwater fish, and that's a lot of it too. So a lot of these fish, um, you can keep way outside of their natural water parameters, even if they're wild caught. But they may just not spawn for you. Sometimes it takes you got to trigger some breeding behavior by doing a water change and dropping, making that water a little bit softer, or adding. If you look at Mark's Aquatics, from where's he from? Like New South Wales or something. But he does a lot of stuff with tetras, and he'll add basically mesh media bags full of peat and stuff to naturally adjust some of the water parameters a little bit. Getting into a little bit more of my wheelhouse. Tony Danford asked, "What are some good tips on growing big and lush Amazon swords?" You know what? The best tip I can give you on that is don't grow Amazon swords. There are Amazon swords get huge. They are, you know, and I posted on the Get Gills about a different plant, but a similar circumstance. So you know how you have like the giant gouramis and iridescent catfish and stuff for like the tank busters of fish. Amazon swords are tank busters of like plant tank busters, right? So they get huge. I've seen them easily outgrow 125, like out the top, uh, filling half of it up, million leaves, and it's an easy plant to grow. Unfortunately, it is an extremely nutrient hungry plant, and it will rob everything else in your tank of any nutrients that it can get its hands on, because it does grow fairly fast and it does grow fairly large. I would personally suggest something like any kind of Durus Socarno, which I actually happen to have. It's a much more attractive sword, if you ask me. It gets this red coloration. Let me share my screen here, and I'll show you this. So this is Echinodurus socarno.
Nice.
It doesn't take a lot of light to get those maroon colors and stays a much more manageable size. In my 125, it grows to about 16 or 18 inches tall. So it's much more manageable. In my opinion, a much more attractive sword. However, with that in mind, you did ask how to grow Lush Amazon swords. So uh, nutrients, obviously. So you're going to need to supplement. All plants feed from both the water column and the substrate. Swords tend to feed a little more from the substrate. That big, thick root structure. So some sort of root tab, like a Thrive cap from Nylok Aquatics or something similar. And then light and CO2. They don't need a lot of light, but the more you give it, the faster it'll grow. And then CO2 is generally speaking, CO2 is the lymphac. So if you can give them, it doesn't take a lot of CO2 to notice a huge change in plant growth. So I'd say medium light, a little bit of CO2 and a lot of nutrients, and you shouldn't have any problems there, Tony. Maria Z, she's talking about her 236. She said pH is 8, super hard, over 300 TDS, and just started to spawn. Excellent. That's awesome. Like I said, a lot of people raise a fuss about super soft water. If you provide, clean water and you provide sufficient nutrition and the right conditions, whether that's, caves, highly oxygen water, etc. Generally speaking, you can make it happen. I'd say very few species, pH will be really the lymphac as to whether they spawn or not. Mystery Snail Guardian said, "What are your thoughts on adding baking soda to raise pH levels in snail tanks to prevent shell erosion? What method do you recommend to raise and maintain pH levels?" I'm in the Midwest, where our water is liquid rock. Like our shower heads literally will stop functioning because there's so much mineral buildup. So I've never had to intentionally try to raise my pH levels.
Yeah.
I would say if you want to add baking soda, or you want to chemically alter the water to make it a little bit harder, I would definitely use a storage tank and premix that. I personally, so I don't raise pH in my tanks. I do use salty shrimp. What is it? GH plus, I think, to remineralize RO water to a specific TDS for my Caridina shrimp. It's definitely, like I said, if you wanted to use baking soda, it's doable. Keep in mind, pH is not necessarily related to shell erosion.
Okay.
There's all kinds of plant, or all kinds of snails in my planted tank. So that's my 125. I use straight RO. I don't remineralize at all. I have CO2. So there's a lot of carbonic acid in there, and I don't see any erosion from the shells that are shell erosion from the snails that are in there. I've actually spawned, believe it or not, Neolamprologus multifasciatus, so a little shell dweller cichlid, in super soft water where, because of that carbonic acid, the escargot shells that I used were slowly breaking down. But I've never seen it as, I've never personally experienced a situation where because of soft water I was losing snails. I'm not a big
I
snail
have.
guy. Maybe you have some fancy snails.
Well, I can elaborate on that because I had to ask a bunch of questions to somebody, and I'll just tell you, it was Foxy Fishes. She is the mystery snail queen. I'm not saying that this person is not good at it, but it is the KH that needs to be raised, not the pH. And if you go to Crayfish Empire, they have calcium carbonate that you can add to it, and just go slowly with it until you get it to the KH that you want it to be at for the snails. But then if they're in another tank with other fish, it could affect the fish too. Once you start raising that, it could possibly hurt them.
Um, so yeah, that's why we bring different people up here. They have different experiences. I'm not a big snail guy. Um, I think some of the rabbit snails are cool, but other than that, I don't intentionally keep snails. I have snails just because I have a planted tanks, but I'm sure some of the more chemistry inclined people in here, like Patrick or Alishan, have some input on that. Um, just my 2 cents. Fish Traffic, what are your thoughts on that API automatic tester? I'm honestly not sure what you are referring to. Maybe we can look at the API. Freshwater, water testing, automatic tester. I'm not familiar. If you can elaborate, Fish Tropic, um, maybe I can look it up and give you my 2 cents. I'm not familiar with an API automatic tester though. Maria Z said Mark Aquatics is the first YouTuber she subscribed to. Mark Aquatics is awesome, and if you haven't subscribed to him, you should. He does a lot of more or less breeding tutorials, which are pretty slick. So that's good stuff. I'll post his link here. Can't remember exactly where he's from.
Who is it? Who is it again?
Mark's Aquatics. I posted his link there. I'm sure you've seen his stuff.
Yeah, I just don't remember.
Jeffrey Watts, super hard water in Texas. Yep, Texas is about the same. It's tough. That's why. So maybe 15, 20 years ago, the Midwest Cichlid Association was super popular because people didn't have to mess with their water to keep a wide variety of African cichlids. They already had that super hard water. And then RO systems became more readily available, and people got sick of seeing the same peacocks all the time. So now African cichlids are kind of on the back burner.
I remember him now. I just don't. I think Denmark is right, and he left us, and he's back.
Maria Z said about their 236s. Maria, are those 236s from what was her name? Steph? You know who I'm talking about? She was selling some of the 236s long ago. She was in a few streams. Cool.
Yeah, I don't remember.
F, like they might be. I was talking to her about buying stuff. I just never pulled the trigger. Bob and Robert are talking about girth, so we'll leave that alone.
Oh Jesus!
I don't know where that's going. Dee Dee's Findan asked what kind of plant was that. I'll post that in the chat. Echinodurus socarno, which I actually have close to 50 of these right now that I've grown out in my 125. So if you'd like that red sword that I posted is Echinodurus socarno, Soekarno. Let me know, and maybe we can work something out. I'll sell a couple of them straight across or trade them for some cool stuff. Skipper, I know I owe you some guppy grass.
Yeah, whatever.
So I'll message you. I'll text you later and get you some of that.
We'll wait probably a couple weeks because we leave for Disney tomorrow night.
Okay. Disney.
Yeah.
That should be a good time. You excited about that or not so much?
No.
No, not really.
We've been there quite a few times, but it's getting different, and the kids love it. So.
We actually went back in April. So we did, what do we do? We did Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Universal Islands of Adventure, and Epcot. Which Epcot has that. They got the deal where you eat and drink from all the different places around the world. So that was a dangerous afternoon. I'll say that.
It is. I've done it.
It's delicious. There's some good food.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good time. Actually, we're gonna hit all the parks
Hmm.
this time.
Patrick said that he knows I don't watch Rachel O'Leary. I don't mind Rachel. She has a lot of experience under her belt, and she keeps some cool stuff. I actually have. It's not in this desk anymore, but a couple of her books. Let me see, Rachel. This one. 101 Best Freshwater Nano Species. This is a book that she helped write.
Oh yeah,
It's a pretty good book. It's nice to have for a quick reference and get some ideas for fish for a smaller tank. I don't really watch her YouTube stuff, to be honest. It's nice to see some of the different stuff that she keeps, and she does some cool stuff with outdoor tubs.
oh yeah.
Marie Z said she likes Mark's Aquatics. No bullshit, just great info. Yep, that's the things. Like he has a bunch of different stuff, and he keeps both saltwater, freshwater. He's got that. He has a koi pond that like comes inside his house through the wall.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
So that's pretty cool.
I don't know how he did that, but that's pretty neat. What's up, Bagger?
So South Wales. I thought that's where he was.
Yeah.
Patrick said I'm breaking up. Is the audio okay?
You're good now.
Good. All right.
When you first came back, it fixed itself.
Okay. Alshan said spin tester for pet shops. I didn't know that. I don't know much about the commercial side of things.
Well, I could tell you with Petco. Okay, I love it. It's funny. So whenever they say whenever your fish dies, bring it and then bring a sample of water. Well, the only thing that they use is them test strips.
Hmm.
That's what they use. They're
Oh
like,
yeah.
well, you can come and get your water tested here. Well, it's the same thing that I could buy on the shelf.
Right. And like I said, if you take the time to understand what you're testing, why you're testing it, and what those numbers actually mean, then you're far better off just testing it yourself versus having some 16-year-old that just started his job the other day test it for you. Patrick said he wants one of those swords. Email me, Patrick. Mike.allthingsfish@gmail.com. See what we can do. What else? Oh, Rachel has the automatic water tester.
Oh, that's right.
I guess if you had a lot of tanks, it might pay off. I personally don't trust API's test kits much, largely because of the nitrate test kit that so many people have problems with. Like, oh, my nitrates are testing at 160 parts per million, blah blah blah. And then you're like, okay, well, what's in the tank? And they're like, oh, I have 3 cherry barbs, and my tap water is super clean. I was like, well, then your nitrates aren't 160 parts per million, I promise. Because if they are, then you're feeding way too much. But that's that. API gave Rachel that test kit. Probably. I'd imagine that. She's big enough to have connections in the hobby like that. And that's pretty cool to have. It's nice for a company to have somebody like that has a pretty good idea of what they're doing to test stuff like that and be able to tell you, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? So see, is it something fairly portable? Like, did she post it on one of her videos?
She has a video of it.
Okay. I mean, is it fairly small? Could you take it somewhere, or is it more like, yeah, go collect water samples and bring it back?
It seemed, from what I remember watching that video, it seemed to be pretty compact.
Really?
The next comment says Rachel was taking it whenever she was doing a lot of hiking, and she was taking it and testing various lake streams
Oh, really?
just to see.
Hmm.
Maria says it's portable.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I guess I personally, and maybe it's a bad habit, I don't care enough about many of the things in our water that we should, because a lot of the times, like I use RO for a lot of my tanks, and I'll remineralize to whatever I want. That way, I know exactly what's in my water, and I don't have to worry about if I'm getting outside influence of whatever it may be, phosphates, heavy metals, etc. I mean, it's cool. It's cool that she's taking it places and testing it. To be interested to see it tested versus a control to see how well it's actually working. Don't be brainwashed, Fish Tropic says. I said it's a matter of there's a lot of testing products out there um, that are super cool, but it's easy to get caught up in a lot of things that are offered to the hobby that we don't really need at all. So I will say, so on the freshwater side of things, I don't test anything. Saltwater side of things, I haven't really been involved in saltwater for maybe 5 years or so, and even then, I wasn't real into it. I had some softies and a couple LPS in my tanks. But if you look at like the Neptune Apex systems, those things about real time monitor everything in the tank. It's pretty crazy. It's going to cost you, um, but you can definitely you can monitor all from your phone. It's pretty crazy.
Hmm.
I will say though that in my experience, things can go south in a reef tank a lot faster due to a single excuse me, a single parameter like your magnesium being high or something. You'll piss off a lot of corals really fast without even knowing it.
Yes, yeah, that's one thing. Like, I've been thinking about doing salt, but I don't know if I really want to do it with corals.
So if you do like some of the softies, like your leathers, your torches, your well, not necessarily your torches, but your like Zoas and Pallies, uh, easier stuff that's a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to find. There's not really a ton of testing involved. You generally start with um, your RODI. You want single digit TDS to avoid any problems with algae because there can be uh, it's tends I would say excess nutrients like your phosphates and your chloramines in saltwater tend to be a little bit more of a problem. Um, so you're going to start with real clean water, so RODI. Pick your favorite flavor salt, and with most of those, like the Zoas and Pallies, if you do a little bit of a water change like once a month, you'll be fine without testing. Your calcium and magnesium and all that stuff because they're not using a ton of it. It's not like your sticks or your SPS, like your bird's nests. Those things are soaking up all the calcium out of the water. So it's your water's changing a bit more rapidly. Like if you stick with those softies, it's not such a big deal. What? Dee Dee said Rachel hasn't been putting out much content.
Mm-mm.
And Bob said she has a new bow. Is that true?
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
I stopped following her on Facebook. I used to have her on Facebook, and I just couldn't really do it. Liquid Zoo, what's up? What is crack a lacking?
I ain't gonna be able to stay on too much longer.
That's all right. I thought I posted uh,
You did, but you
the
didn't
the
pin it.
link. I did too.
Huh?
It should be at the top of the chat. I looked at I
Oh,
forgot.
it is there. Yeah,
I've got YouTube open. Just
I see it.
nobody wants to try to compete with me to outtalk me tonight. So
Oh, ugh.
it's tough. I know it's tough. Depends on what you get me fired up about.
Remember the days where all I had to do is say one word and you just went.
Well, it'll still happen. Alishan, you're getting pretty close. Getting pretty damn close. So it is a pseudocrenolabra species, and as far as I know, it's not officially been described. So if you guys are familiar with any of the pseudocrenolabras, most of the most popular uh, species in the genus are like your multicolor Victoriae, which is often called the Egyptian, Labrus mouthbrooder, which looks like. Let me share my screen here. Share screen over here. Boom. So this guy, it's a pretty decent little picture. So that's Pseudocrenolabris multicolor Victoriae. Pretty cool little fish. This is, for reference, Alishan, this is definitely not what I'm getting. But this is an example of one of the Pseudocrenolabris species. Another popular one, well, they used to be popular. Now they're kind of hard to find, is Pseudocrenolabris nicolsi, which
That's a
is
nice one.
this guy. Pretty cool. But there's quite a few that Oliver's recently collected that are somewhat undescribed. Um, so I did pick up a couple of them, and once I get those, I will gladly share with you guys. So I'm looking forward to get them, and it should be fun. It's like I said, it's something a little bit different that I haven't kept before, so it should be a good time. Edgar Reyes, what's up? Degenerate Fish Keeper, howdy, howdy. Nicolsi are nasty. They are. And it seems like you used to be able to find them pretty easy. And then they kind of disappeared off the face of the planet about 10 years ago. And it seems like they're just starting to come back a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Let me see. Closed auctions. Just for Alishan, I might show you a little teaser here quick. I can find him.
They're talking in the chat about the Keystone Clash. It's a month away.
Right? It's getting close. See this coming up, and actually, I just found out about an event next year that I'd like to go to. Alishan, here's a teaser for you. I'll show this for un momento. Hopefully Alishan's watching.
That's a nice fish.
Just a quick little look. Bob's got the Egyptian multicolors. Super cool fish. Buddy of mine had him in a planted tank. It was kind of an interesting look, but it was pretty sweet. And Patty's right, the Kentucky thing. So Louisville, Kentucky, next year. So the American Cichlid Association every year has their big annual event. And next year is the 50th. And they are actually teaming up with the American Live Bear Association, American Killifish Association, and the Australian and New Guinea Fishes Association chapter of North America, more or less rainbows, so ANGFA. So it's a huge thing. They're calling it the Triple Crown. I think it's 4 or 5 days. And if you guys are into cichlids, Rusty Wessel is actually opening up his house a couple nights and doing a tour of his house as well as a barbecue. They have like 10 different speakers, I think, and so it should be a good deal. And all that information is on the American Cichlid Association website. Have the schedule out. I don't know what the cost will be. Convention. Show you guys that if you're interested. Definitely worth something worth seeing. Um, so the scheduled events. Here we go. So some of the speakers: Richard Stratton, Daniel Convetterline, Tobler, Dr. Lois Sell, Tim Hovanek, Sandy Moore. So some pretty big names. I think they said what, 10 species. Spencer Jack. So some pretty good stuff. So if
Holy,
you're into, you know, so the Aquashella is more like a vendor type show, to be honest, and it's cool to go see stuff. If you want to like learn and see some geeky stuff, it's not just a bunch of nerds, but you're gonna learn and get like once in a lifetime opportunity stuff. So something like the ACA or the AKA convention is going to be the way to go, and this is ACA, AKA, and ALA all together. Um, so this is yep, ANGFA of North America for sure. This is a pretty big deal. If you can make it, it's this one will be worth traveling for. If you can make a couple of days, it's going to be awesome.
I'm gonna have to call it quits, bud.
All right, Tom. Appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah.
Kenny's here. He said, "What's up?" I saw you
Hello,
wave.
Penny.
Do do do. Hope you're doing well, Kenny. Haven't seen you in a while. I know I haven't been around too much at least. Uh,
Oh, they were sick. They're getting better though.
oh yeah, that's a bummer. Jeffrey
Well,
Watts.
there, buddy. I'll see y'all later, Mike. Thanks for
All right.
having me out.
Have a good night, Tom. We'll see you.
Do it again some other time.
Hopefully soon. We'll see you.
All right. Later.
Jeffrey Watts asked Bob if they're the blue lip redfin ones. Yep. So that's a Pseudocrenal labris multicolor Victoriae. Pretty cool stuff. Do, do, do. Oh, really, Rico? I'd be curious to hear what that was. Smart guy. I haven't met him myself. I've heard he can be a little difficult to get along with sometimes. So now that Tom's gone, it's just me. We can talk about whatever you guys would like to talk about. We can talk about Tom while he's gone if you want. Talk about fish. Talk about plants. Or we can give it up and call it a short one tonight at an hour. I know it's been a while. I did post the link. If you guys want to chat at all, uh, that's an understatement from what I've heard, Bob. I said super smart guy, but I've heard he can be tough to get along with. I did stick the link in the chat if you guys are interested in jumping up on the panel and chatting a little bit. You're more than welcome. S is trying to find out super secrets. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Not a whole lot to openly talk about, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and unfortunately, the next few days are going to get a little bit worse. I think, sadly. Um, so that's that. I won't get too far into it. Um, just imagine what you're seeing in the news, and hope for the best. Things could get a lot uglier real fast. second best in show at the Clash in 2017. That's pretty sweet. A buddy of mine, he had his maybe 4 or 5 years ago. He kept a breeding group in a 55, and they did well in there. So they don't take up a lot of space. Somewhat mild mannered, not too crazy. Yeah, and I've always wanted Nicolsa Alsham. Unfortunately, I've never been able to find them at a point in time where I was ready to keep a group of them. So like I said they are a little bit tougher to find in the hobby lately, which is unfortunate. They are a beautiful fish, um, but Pseudocryon labris is almost like it's kind of like the apistogrammas of Africa. Really, there's so many. I was actually reading an article the other day about the various hybridizations between, excuse me, uh, various species of the genus, and I actually found a pretty cool graphic. Let me see if I can find it to share with you guys. Oh, man. Give me just a second. See if I can find it. Open. Shared files. This guy. So if you're halfway interested in pseudocryon stuff, you may find this interesting. Maybe not, but we'll see. I thought it was a pretty cool image of. This is just in Lake Mwiru. So some of the various pseudocryon species, and you could kind of see the diversity as well as the hybridization. There's a pretty cool article that went with it. But if you guys are actually interested in, I can post. And we're back. Sorry about that. Oh, I just put that video or that picture up and I bounced. Sorry. All right, there it is. Some kind of cool stuff there to see if you're interested in, hybridization, biodiversity within a single body of water. It's a very broad genus that's got some super cool fish and some fish that look a little bit plain. So not everybody's cup of tea, but pretty sweet. Sound is low. Uh-oh. He gone. He back. Um, if Gary brings various rainbowfish eggs, he does that a lot. I haven't been to a Mazzy meet or anything that he's been at, but it is pretty cool that he does bring a bunch of different eggs that you can pick up because he does keep a wide variety of species. So it can be one of the few opportunities he gets to get some super cool species of rainbow fish. You used to be able to on Aquabit, a lot more people used to sell mops full of eggs, and that seems like that's not as popular anymore, which is unfortunate because they're pretty easy to pick out and ship. I just don't know if the people weren't seeing the yields that they were hoping for, so they stopped really just being much of a demand um, to purchase them or what. Um, there's it never ceases to amaze me. Dragon layers, if you're into pistols, he was talking about them a little bit. Never ceases to amaze me. It seems like every year they're posting more and more pisto species, and I think that's largely there's a lot of them that are officially undescribed. Um, I'm, I'd imagine it's kind of similar to the pseudocryon labris, where there's a lot of hybridization going on, and you're seeing very you know specific locale variants. Dee Dee's Fish Den asked if I finished my fish room. I did not. The fish room's always a work in progress, however slow it may be. I did post I posted a video Saturday of a little update we kind of saw a brief update in there. Got a few new tanks put in. Kind of got things cleaned up a little bit. Coming along nicely. Fish Guy Nick asked if I have a childhood favorite fish. I didn't really get into fish until I was late high school, and I didn't really keep anything cool. Um, I actually my first tank was my dad's tank that I more or less just took over. And it was just kind of a random community tank, and from there I kind of ventured out into a few species. This was the early 2000s, so it wasn't. I was in the middle of the Midwest. There weren't a lot of local options for cool stuff. So I'd say I honestly don't really have a favorite childhood fish. Uh, I, I honestly I've kept a wide variety of fish. I don't know if I have a specific favorite. I would say that my current favorite right this moment is the Chalathrian Alani Wapoga. So those rainbows that are in my 125 that you guys have seen. And I did post an old picture of the 125 the other day. If you guys are interested to see what it looks like now, this is kind of what it looks like. Let's see if I can find an old picture. Give me just a minute. Got a couple of these open for you guys. So you guys know I had the 125 set up. This is uh-oh. Well, I was showing you guys all kinds of stuff. So this was more or less the 125 um, when it looked pretty good, not too bad. Um, Not its peak, but it was doing pretty well there. And last week, it looked something like this. So that was a few weeks worth of growth in comparison, and it had about, even though I thinned some of the species out, it still had probably 50 to 55 different species or variants of plants. And it was an hour here and there. Over the course of a few days, it transformed from that into so it looked like a few days ago, right after I planted it. So definitely cleaned it out. Not as much in there. I think I went down to maybe 30 species of plants, so definitely got a lot smaller. Still have the same rainbow fish in there, as well as a group of Corydorus sodalis. Um, but we'll see how it fills in. I'm not necessarily super happy with Escape. Originally in my head, I was kind of thinking like an island type deal. Um, but after the rocks that I've got in there are a lot bigger than I thought, so an island didn't really work out so well. Um, and I ended up keeping more species that I really wanted to be honest. But that's where we ended up. Um, 3G asked about the lights. So about 700 lights. Not really close actually. So I use. You can see it in the one image. I'll show you the exact lights that I have eventually. So this is what I have on the tank. 3 of these. I'm going to share this window. So I use the Prism by nylocg.com. So that's Colin Grice. He's more well known for Thrive, the fertilizer. But this is the light that I use. I use the 16-inch basic model, currently priced at 160, and then you can get $20 off using the code $20 off Prism. I have 3 of these at 140 bucks, puts me at $420. So about half of your guess, 3G. and it puts I th- I want to say at something like 24 inches. I think it's tested at about 300 par. I know he's got par charts somewhere. Is this it? Inches, not that one. Somebody's got par charts out there. But I want to say at about 24 inches, it's throwing 300 par. So it's adjustable. Price point's pretty sweet, and obviously it grows plants pretty well. So like I said about 420 bucks, and honestly, when the tank is running smoothly, I can make selling trimmings out of there anywhere from $100 to $200 a month. So it doesn't take long to make your money back when you get nice lights. Definitely worth the investment. Lights and CO2. You can get by with about any cheap substrate. Some work better than others, but I wouldn't skimp out much on lights, and you'll definitely get your money back very quickly if you invest in a quality CO2 system. Thanks for stopping by, Dan. We'll see you. Have a good night. 3G 190. You might be looking at, if you're looking at 190, you may be looking at the upgraded Prism model. I know he has the some of them have a separate controller on them, but I just have the basic 16-inch, and it looks like 180 on sale for 160 plus $20 off, so 140 bucks. Not a bad price, and I would say they're good for a 2 by 2 foot footprint. You could put one over a 40 breeder if you put it up high enough. It's going to get you'll obviously see less light in the corners, or you could put two of them on a 40 breeder. I think that would be way more than you need. Um, Anthony asks, what CO2 diffuser do I recommend? I personally prefer to run a CO2 reactor as opposed to a diffuser. Excuse me. So that's an inline reactor out of the tank. I use a Rex Griggs style, so I build it myself with a little bit of PVC for about 15 bucks and run that inline on my canister filter output. But if you're looking for a diffuser, I think Colin might sell the Neo. I would say the Neo is probably one of the better diffusers out there. He doesn't have it. See if I can find it. Boosie Plant's got it. This is the Aquario Neo. Do 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 do. This guy, pretty high quality diffuser. Not super expensive. 80 bucks. Super fine mist. Easy to clean. Um, so yeah, I would go that route. Yeah, if you want a diffuser. Now I wouldn't use a diffuser for a tank smaller than 40 gallons. Um, Otherwise, you're definitely going to want to run two of them just because they're not super efficient. Um, over 40, I would figure out a way to run a reactor if at all possible. Fishenic asked what plants I keep or kept in the 120s. So I have some Hyptis in there, some Ludwigia Pantanol, sorry, a few different varieties of Crips, some Ligonandra Meaboldi Red, Ligonandra Chocolate, and Ligonandra Silver Powder, which if you're not familiar, it's pretty similar to a Crypt. I have some Echinodurus Socarno, Echinodurus Iguazu, and Echinodurus Goncalo. I've also got for a foreground, I've got a variety of hair grass. I haven't positively identified it yet. I'll post some pictures up on Get Gills or something, see if anybody can recognize it. And then I used some Monte Carlo, and what else I have in there? Some Rotala macrandra, some Tanina fluviatilis, some Cryptospiralis tiger. So a few different varieties. Nothing too crazy. Um, Not super easy, but kind of cool stuff. I don't know if Oliver has any specific fish. The pseudocrinal labras that I showed you, Alishan, are coming from a separate breeder. So the breeder I know got F1s from Oliver, and then I'm getting the F2s. Steven said he built a Rex Griggs for his 90 gallon. It's super easy. There's videos all over the place out there, about 15 or $20, and you can build a CO2 reactor big enough to accommodate any size tank and have way more ability for CO2 diffusion and dissolution than you'd ever need. FS6 is pretty big. I said reactor size, both width and height, will depend or will change how much CO2 you can put into the tank. But definitely, I said 90 gallons. I think the reactor I put on my 125 is, I think, used 2.5 inch or 3 inch PVC, and it's about 18 inches tall. So much bigger than I actually need. Um, but it'll work all the same, just fine. FS6 on 125. So the FX series of filters, I think, is personally overpriced. If you can get one, like when Petco does like 50% off or whatever, I think it's definitely worth it. In my opinion, or like right now on my 125, since it's not drilled, um, I really think a 75 gallon or bigger for cost versus reward. You're better off going with a sump versus a canister. Once you get into that 100 gallon plus range, a sump it lets you get all the equipment out of your tank. Allows much more efficient filtration. It's much more flexible. You can customize it to do whatever you need to do. And in the end, compared to like the price of an FX6, you can get so like for we'll say 125, right? So you get a 20 long used for like $10. You can cut a couple cheap plastic or acrylic or glass baffles put in it, and a little return pump, and you're in business. Throw some foam or some bio balls in there, and you've got a sump that's honestly going to be much more, like I said, efficient and effective than most canister type filters. Yeah, yeah, it is, Steven. And I've used powered Sergi style reactors before, and I appreciate the simplicity of a Grig style. A little bit easier to make, uh, but I mean they both work really well. Um, I can't say that I noticed any better dissolution using a powered Sergi style reactor versus like a passive Rex Griggs. And I've seen Tom Barr that's actually he's got a like a purge return that he's designed on his Rex Griggs that I actually like that I haven't implemented yet myself. But it looks like a pretty good idea to collect any CO2 that hasn't dissolved yet that you may get like that CO2 pocket up at the top of the reactor. He's designed a reactor with a purge line that basically venturis that back into the inflow going into the reactor. So then it breaks those bubbles back up uh, for further dissolution. Looks like it works really well. Super simple design, cheap modification to any existing Rex Griggs. Works pretty well. Uh, yeah, good luck. 175's a pretty good price as far as I know for an FX6. I don't know. I mean, you're looking at 350 plus at least. So it is for $350 you can have a hell of a sump for a similar size tank. So DD made a sump, and the sump's the easy part. I think people oftenly get intimidated by sumps, but really if you have a drilled tank, uh, everything's pretty easy. I mean, the hard work's done for you. The hard work's drilling the tank. If you want to run a siphon style overflow, which I believe the CPR overflow is. It has its risks, but it's super easy. It literally is a hang on back overflow that works off a siphon. Um, but if it's working, it's okay. Power outage and you know, have a fail safe in mind. And that's the thing with canisters, Stephen, is it's like the FX6 as far as a filter itself. Um, it is a quality piece of equipment. They did build it well, and it has nice components. But at the end of the day, a canister filter is a headache. Um, it really is a headache to maintain. You got to drag that thing out of there, tear it all apart, rinse it out, wash it up, put it back together. So it can be a pain in the neck. And if something's work and feels if it's an inconvenience, you're not going to want to work on it, and that means the tank as a whole is going to suffer, right? Um, so I would say, from strictly a maintenance standpoint, if you have a sump, you can slide if you're running foam, you can slide the foam right out the top. Bio balls, you can scoop them right out with the net. Super easy to clean out. Low maintenance if you're running like a sock, like a filter sock. Pretty easy to swap. They just clip into the rings. Super easy to maintain. Get that stuff cleaned out. And canister filters are notorious, and this is one of the reasons that you won't see a canister filter on hardly any saltwater tank, is because they are nitrate factories. Because they are a pain to maintain, and since they're hard to clean, they don't get cleaned as often as they probably should be. And as they trap all that debris that they pull out of the water in the canister itself, it slowly breaks down and releases a ton of nitrates, as well as various other compounds that could potentially be detrimental to the tank as a whole. As I said, um, dollar for dollar, a sump is just a far better bet. Is it a little more complicated? Yes. Yeah, can it be a little bit harder to set up? Definitely. But at the end of the day, it's a far better option for tanks, in a 100-gallon plus range. Um, and a lot of people worry about flooding a house with a sump. It is as long as it's a reasonably designed sump, you'll never have a drop of water on the floor due to power outage or whatever. DDS, doesn't a sump mess with the CO2 in the tank? Can it? A little bit, maybe, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'll actually let me post a link to an article written by Dennis Wong, optimizing CO2, about surface agitation and how surface agitation is actually a good thing if you're running CO2. Post that link in chat. I would encourage you to check this link out, as well as the rest of Dennis' website, 2hourcourse.com. AdvancedPlanetTank.com takes you to the same place, just a different link. Um, but do you off gas some? Depends on the sump design. You can off gas a little bit of CO2. However, just like related to that article there, if you look at it, that surface agitation does actually allow you to more safely run higher levels of CO2, and the amount of CO2 that you're wasting or off gassing, if you will, is pretty negligible, to be honest. Um, yeah, like Steven said, as far as a sump allows you to, you can put your reactor, you can plumb it inline with your sump. You can build a separate, like if you look at saltwater sump setups, they'll have, their main overflow line coming down into the sump, and then a main line return from the pump back to the sump. But they may also have other loops that they run reactors and stuff off of that you can isolate, you using ball valves or whatever you see fit, like whether there's a gate valve to adjust flow. Um, so you will see, uh, if you're running a sump, you can run a CO2 reactor off the side. You can adjust the flow through it without affecting the actual flow back up to the main body of water there. Degenerate Fishkeeper asked, said, I have to challenge that term nitrate factory. Isn't the end of the nitrogen cycle nitrates? And when that just means efficient at biological filtration? Yes and no. Um, So like I said, it is efficient, depending on what media you have in there, which I prefer foam myself. Uh, you know, cost versus effect. A decent foam or various sizes of foam are extremely effective for you know very low expense, and so it does trap a canister filter itself does trap a lot of debris. It's generally very efficient at mechanical filtration. And the end result of the nitrogen cycle generally is nitrates, ammonia, nitrites, nitrates. If you go anaerobic, which most canister filters don't, then you see some additional nitrification or denitrification, really, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but because so it filters, it has such quality mechanical filtration, right? A lot of water flow, a lot of filter media in there, um, that you see a lot of that detritus and debris. It's stuck in that canister filter where it slowly breaks down, right? Well, if you don't remove that debris from the canister filter by cleaning the filter and actually removing it, rinsing it off, doing what you need to do, as that debris breaks down, uh, that as it breaks down, it will, convert to nitrates, right? But it's just continually creating nitrates all the time. So you're not just seeing, uh, like a hang-on back filter. It's pretty easy to clean, right? You just pop the lid off and boom, you can clean it out. You get rid of that debris that's breaking down into the nitrates. But with a canister filter, it's a little bit more of a pain. So if you're not on top of it, and if that filter is a headache to clean, you're not going to stay on top of it as well. It's eventually just going to cause nitrate problems. It can, and I'm not saying it will. It depends on your maintenance routine and your specific tank, but they can definitely cause nitrate problems for sure. Fish tank foam as in sponge, yep. So whether you're using like 100 ppi or 200 ppi, just various foam. Honestly, it's all I run in any of my filters. It's cheap, it's easy to clean. You don't run into problems. Yeah, and Stephen P. basically, he may have echoed it or beat me to it, but it's exactly what I said. Just because you wait to clean them, and I know on my 125, because I got a good deal on them, and it was a moment of opportunity. I run two Aquatop CF 500 canister filters, and I don't clean them anywhere near as often as I should. And as a result, I actually do see a little bit higher nitrates. So even though I EI dose lean because I understand and know that because I don't stay on top of that filter maintenance, that I just generally have a little bit higher nitrates in the tank. And Steven, there you go. Just like I said, I cut back on my nitrate dose. I dose about half of the recommended like EI KNO3 uh, guideline, I guess. So most EI charts and regimes for about 125-gallon tanks suggest about a tablespoon of KNO3. I dose about half that. So and then I dose uh, potassium phosphates, or sorry, KH2PO4, K2SO4, and my micros. I use CSM plus B. So I've used it since there's other micro compounds out there like Miller's Microplex and whatnot, but I've used CSM plus B since Rex Griggs originally was selling it. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. um, but it's worked for me for a long time, so I don't see any reason to tweak micros. It works. Um, uh, Liebig's law of minimums: as long as you provide a little bit extra of everything, you're just fine. So that's what I do. But but good talk, good questions. I'm always down to talk. A little bit of chemistry helps. I do have a background, excuse me, in organic chemistry, but I'm quite far separated from it due to the current job situation. So it's conversations like these make me think about it, make me do a little bit of research on my own, ask questions to people that are well versed in it compared to me. Um, So it's definitely good stuff. 2 p.m. phosphates in my water. Livestock makes enough nitrate. Uh, awesome. So yeah, a little K2SO4 and some CSM plus B, and you're good to go. Works out pretty well for you. Um, give me 2 seconds, guys. Science guy was up tonight. It depends. You know, sometimes it's nice to be social, and we were social for a little bit. Tom was around. We chatted some nonsense for a while, but we can get geeky every now and then. Depends on who's hanging out, to be honest. And I personally, I mean, I like both conversations, but it's nice to nerd out and get a little science um, action going on. Do I know if there's any chemical interactions if you do dose K2SO4 and micros at the same time? Uh, from conversations, directly and indirectly with Tom Barr, nothing that we need to necessarily be concerned about. Not to any considerable level that would be detrimental to your tank. I know a lot of people. So the EI method is designed to reduce micros one day and macros the next. It's not necessarily because there are interactions between those. From my understanding, it's just it helps set a routine for every other day. That's more or less my understanding. When I talked to Tom, he said there's no, at least in his experience, he's a pretty smart dude. Uh, no detrimental effects by dosing them at the same time. Give me 2 seconds here, guys. All right, and we're back. Do do do. The E said cabinet came with the 125 was built too difficult for any size sump. I feel your pain. I picked up an acrylic 180 that's 6x2x2, and it had a nice stand with it. Unfortunately, the stand had about zero usable room underneath, particularly for a sump. So I gotta scrap that and build a new one, which sucks, but it happens. Fish, I think, do you use RO water over there, or your tank's adjusted to it since you have hard water out of the tap? Depends on the tank, to be honest. So my 125, that planet tank I showed you guys a minute ago, this guy, this gets straight RO, and then I'd use a full EI based dosing regime. Like I said, cutting KNO 3.5 to reduce the nitrates. I don't know what the TDS of this is about. I don't know, 200. So I use straight RO. I don't use Colin over at Nylock G offers a NPK EI based salt pack with a GH booster. I personally do not use it. Some people do. Um, so I use straight RO in this tank downstairs. Depending on the fish, I have like the Nano that I have downstairs. I have those at about 100 TDS. I've got some Corridor stir by. They're between 100 and 150. The Caradina shrimp I use straight RO, and then use salty shrimp GH plus to get up to about 140 on the TDS. So it really depends. And then I have a couple tanks with guppies that I just use tap water. Tap water here is pretty hard, between 350 and 400. Steven asked, "What do I keep my GH at?" Honestly, couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I said I gave you some TDS. What is it? One GH is equivalent to like 18 TDS. 18 TDS is like 1 degree GH, maybe. I can't remember. 17 parts per million of calcium is roughly 1 degree of GH. Um, so I honestly couldn't tell you. It's it's one of those things where if things are working in the tank, then I don't necessarily care about the details as much as I probably should, but it happens. Nick asked how long my RODS system lasts. So the system I have now is a 5-stage Liquigen 75 gallon per day unit. I've had it for 3 years now, and I've yet to replace any of the cartridges at all. So it's a little bit bigger than like the RO Buddy, but I haven't replaced any of the cartridges. I haven't replaced the DI resin, and I'm still seeing 8 or 9 TDS out of it. Um, so that's about it. Can RO systems be kept outside the shelter as long as they don't freeze? Sure. Keep them covered up. Most of the components are plastic, so if it freezes, you can start. You're going to damage your RO membrane, and then you could bust the actual filter housings themselves. I go by TDS. What if it's all parts from ppms of copper? Could be, but I use straight with the exception of the tanks that I use tap in, right? Um, so I just use RODI and then I remineralize to TDS using like a GH booster. I don't necessarily test the GH itself. So there could be copper in there. I doubt it. I doubt it. Dreamweaver Aquatics. What's shaking, man? Welcome. Welcome. Patty. Pat yourself on the back. Smart, not just a alleviating blowhard. Well, there's a lot of hot air moving. I don't know if what I'm saying is always right, but I try to at least be close. And if I don't know an answer, I'll defer it like that. Who was it? Who asked? Somebody asked the snail question earlier about baking soda for snail shells. That's why we like to have people that participate in the chat, and like I said, if you guys want to come up on the panel, it's not really a panel, it's just me talking, but the link is posted a sticky in the chat. You're welcome to. Makes asking questions a little easier, makes a little more interesting conversation, but don't feel obligated. TDS can be grossly misused. You're right, but for $15, I keep an eye every now and then, like once a quarter. I'll check my city water and get a pretty good idea of what's coming into the house. Like usually your water municipalities post their test results fairly regularly, like once a week or once a month. So you can get a pretty good idea of what's going into your tanks and what's going through your RO system. There's a guy I haven't seen in a while.
How are you?
Hey Kevin, how are you, man?
Doing well. How have you been?
Good. It's been a while. What have you been up to?
It has been quite a while.
Yeah. I think
How have you been?
Good. Staying busy. The summers for me are generally when I like to go out and do stuff, go fishing, vacation with the family, and work's been work's kept me out of town a little bit, but things are slowing down a little bit. Kids back in school, so we're busy with youth sports, but trying to get a little more involved with the fish stuff again. So J Rock does stuff. What's shaking? How are your tanks doing, Kevin? I know I've seen you in a bunch of streams. I haven't really had a chance to talk to you much though, so I'm sorry.
It's going pretty well.
Good. And any cool projects going on right now?
Well, so I got the angels over there, and then I just got a big, what is it, like a 30-gallon trash can on wheels so that I can do easier water changes.
There you go. That's a trick, man.
Well, I think my dad will be a little bit upset with me, but hey, he still hasn't noticed, and it's been like a week or two. So.
Yeah. Fortunately, my wife is pretty understanding. And I actually, so I
Yeah.
pump RO. I have two 55-gallon drums downstairs that I store RO water in. So I pump that water up into a 32-gallon brute can on wheels, and then I pump it from there into the 125.
Wait, you said it's from downstairs. So how do you get it upstairs?
A big old pump. Yeah, I think the pump I have is rated for some like 30 feet of head pressure. So
What pump is that then?
it's a Pan World. So it's actually an external pump. It's the 100 PX maybe. Let me look.
Patty, zip it.
She causing problems again.
Patty says, "What has Mike done that deserves Kevin on the panel?"
Is she implying that you being here is a good thing, or is that punishment?
Punishment. How does he deserve Kevin coming up? That's punishment. And knowing Patty, that's exactly what she means.
But so awesome. So what kind of angels do you have in that tank that was next to you there?
Let me see if it will reach. Give me 1 sec. I don't know. Could you see it before at all?
I could see the tank. I couldn't see the actual fish in there.
Okay, give me 1 sec then.
See, I was looking through your videos. I thought maybe you might have a video of them, but it looks like mostly streams. Are you the troll that I have to deal with all the time? Let's see if we get Kevin back.
Okay, cool. So
Got you back.
I don't know. Can you see it? It's right there.
Yep.
I think. Yeah. Can you see them at all?
I can see a few of them. How many of them? You have quite a few down in there, huh?
Yeah, I have 12.
Okay.
So I got them from let me move this out of the way. So I got them from Angel Mania,
Okay.
and it was I don't know if they said it was only Fender. They said it was only a like a 24-hour thing, but I don't know. I don't actually know whether it was only 24 hours because when I'm not signed in, it didn't seem like it ever ended.
Okay.
But it was like buy one get one free. So I got like I purchased 6, and they were actually pretty reasonable. So I got like 12 of them for like $60. I want to say.
Oh, that's a pretty good price for those guys.
What?
I said that's a pretty good price for those guys. Usually they're a little bit more.
Maybe a little bit, not much more, because they were what? Yeah, they weren't that much more. They were pretty cheap, and then they were buy one. Yeah, because it was okay. So it was $80, $60 or $80 for 6, but I got 12 of them.
Okay.
So it didn't end up turning out too badly for me.
Well, nice. I'm glad that worked out for you.
What are we looking at?
Somebody said that J-Rock has some cool videos, so I went over to his channel and we're watching roller skate right now.
Yes, I was talking to J-Rock earlier today. And then I think I ended up stopping because his phone ended up dying.
Oh, really?
But it was very nice getting to talk to him. So thank you, J-Rock.
Awesome. Good deal.
Dragon Lair. Coon Dog. What in what?
Coondog Cemetery. I've never even heard of that.
I have no idea.
Reserved specifically for the burial of coondogs. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I figured that's what Coon Dog Cemetery meant, but I'm surprised that they actually excuse me, have a
Bless you.
cemetery for it.
Interesting.
I'm very surprised that they have a cemetery for coon dogs. Okay,
You bet, J-Rock. I'll have to take a minute and look through some of your other stuff later here. Looks like you're doing some pond stuff. Pretty cool.
yeah, he just did. I think he finished or he's working on a pond right now, and was saying, which I totally agree, and I know it is expensive. He had to buy the pond liner, and he was saying that that was quite pricey. Which, yes, I totally agree, it is pricey.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Liquid
Like,
Bob, just pinch yourself.
the bloodworms stink. You guys lost me. He said the bloodworms stink.
Yeah, I have no clue what they're talking about. Then again, I try not to look at chat because otherwise I just get so confused.
Right?
Especially when Roundhouse is in here. When
Oh, really?
When Rockford's in my chat, I stop paying attention. That and Larry, when the two of them are in there, I never pay attention.
Oh yeah. I think everybody that's in here tonight is probably already watches Rack stuff. But if you like to see birds, there's always cool stuff. Rack's got a 24/7 live feed. So you can always see cool stuff. There's a downy woodpecker, some other birds. You usually people post times stamps, cardinal. Kind of still cool stuff to check out. Apparently he's seen a bear on there before, which I fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. I've never seen a bear on it, but
I've seen, well, I don't need to watch it on YouTube. I've had like 3 or 4 bears in our garage in Tahoe.
In your garage?
So you know how, I don't know if you know, but like several years ago, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, there was a video or something out. I think it was a video, but it was about. Do you remember the McDonald's Minion character?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And they
Yep.
had the Happy Meals with them.
Right. Yep.
That you could get them. Well, apparently, the caveman actually says, "What the F?"
Oh, really?
It's supposed to be gibberish, but it actually sounds like "what the f."
No kidding, huh?
And so, huh?
I
What did
said
you
no
say, Mike?
kidding. No kidding.
No, I'm not. So, of course, because of that, we had to go run out to the store and pick one or two up, because that we thought that was cool. And so we went and picked it up, and then we came home, and there's a mother and 3 cubs in our garage.
Really?
Oh, and there's another one that apparently lives under our neighbor's house, and she was like in her 90s, so nobody was ever living there. And apparently apparently hot tub or spa covers, when they get hot, they smell like anthills.
Really? Never heard that before.
So we actually got like 2 or 3 of our fences knocked down, and 2 or 3 times we got our fence knocked down, and had to replace the spa cover, which is like, it's not that cheap either to replace the
Oh,
spa covers.
no,
So
not
we
at
had
all.
to, so we had to do it like 4 times, because the bear kept on smashing through our fence and coming and eating the spa covers.
That would be a pain. What is it DR up to on the right? DR. I don't know what you're talking about.
Doctor,
Like,
he's talking about. I have gloves on,
oh, okay.
and I was going to. I was. I don't know what anthills smell like. I just know that that's what they were saying. Is that anthills smell like the spa covers when they get heated up, because they smashed like 3 of them at least.
That's wild.
Yeah, and then we finally got one that isn't supposed to, because apparently the glue in the spa covers, whatever they use, that adhesive smells like anthills.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know how. All I know is people say that apparently it smells like anthills, and we've gotten at least 3 of them smashed. So we finally had to get one that didn't smell like anthills.
Was it just
Or
a different
termites.
brand or what?
Yeah.
Okay. So, um, uh, will I be back next week or what? If you guys want to, I should be. We'll see. Depends on work schedule, but I should be around. We'll
Hey,
see.
Ali Sean. No. No. So we were talking about bears, and I said that we had a family of bears living under one of my neighbors' trees, and it would come over and destroy our hot tub. Oh,
All right.
Patty.
Right now we'll plan on doing it again next week. And I think for tonight, I'm gonna give it a rest for a little bit. Thanks, Kevin, for coming up and chatting with us. Thanks everybody for stopping by.
Oh, so what?
Uh,
You're done now? I come up and now you're done? What the heck?
you got here 2 hours late. I do appreciate it though. Always nice. It's nice catching up
No,
with you a
but
little bit.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody that stopped
Yeah,
by.
thanks.
I think
What time are you doing things at now? Are
so
you doing
tonight
streaming?
tonight was 10 Eastern. So
Yeah. So are you gonna stick with that, or are you
I'd,
changing?
I'd like to try. I think I was either 10 Eastern or 9 Eastern before. It's been so long. It's been a couple of months since I streamed.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's been a while since I've seen you.
yeah, but I'll post about it, and I've been in some of the other streams pretty often lately. So
I don't know
uh,
what Patty's talking about. I never
Dan,
know. Anyways, go on.
Danny Wesh is here. Danny, you're just missing us, man. We're just shutting down and logging off. So
Hey, Danny.
now that Danny stopped by, we said hi. He said hi. We'll call it a night.
And then
It,
I am going, I think probably in an hour.
okay.
I don't know if anybody else is going, but I know I'm going to be going in an hour.
Okay. Sounds good.
That's usually
Um,
my time.
I'll probably poke my head in for a little bit and hang out for a little while here. So in an hour,
Thank you.
check out Kevin. Kevin, if you want to start early, we'll just send everybody over to your channel now.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody will have any qualms with that unless you want to break before you get going for your own
Nope.
show.
I didn't. I thought somebody else was going, but if nobody else is going, give me one moment. I just need to, and I will set up the stream. Cause yeah, just give me a few minutes and I'll
Okay.
set up the stream. Thank you.
Yep. So I'll just drop a link to your channel since you don't have a video up yet. I'll throw that in the chat. So you're welcome to go over there. I know Dr. Black is on right now too. If you guys are into his show, he's over on his channel. Otherwise, I encourage you to check out Kevin, and we'll see you guys around. Thanks for everything. Have a good night.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll see you, Kevin.
Bye, Mike. Thanks. Night, everyone. See you later.